Let me set the scene. I go to a small university in Northern California, definitely not one of the spotlight UCs like LA or Berkeley, but students here, like at any campus, love a good excuse to party. Some bigger schools have infamous days dedicated to unhinged fun, like Sun God Day at UCSD or Floatopia at UCSB. My school doesn't throw anything quite on that level, but some students, including my friends, like to road trip to these events. Till this year, I'd never joined one of those road trips, but it hit me that I was graduating soon, and I had nothing remotely wild to look back on. So when my buddies suggested we hit up UCSB for Floatopia, I caved. We left on a Friday afternoon in my friend Nolan's beat-up Subaru. The crew, Nolan, Drew, Raj, Adam, and me. We're all pretty tall guys, so the ride was uncomfortable, but tolerable with good music and trash talk. Once we arrived in Isla Vista, finding parking was a nightmare. The area was teeming with beachgoers and party traffic. After circling the blocks for nearly an hour, Nolan managed to flirt our way into parking at a random girl's spot. It was one of those stupid lucky moments you just laugh about. Nolan's cousin Talia lived nearby and agreed to let us crash at her place for the weekend, which was huge, considering how packed and expensive everything is during Floatopia. Our roommates were chill, and the place had enough floor space for all 5 of us. That night, even though the actual event was still hours away, we decided to pre-party with them. Before I continue, let me introduce someone. Sean. He's not a part of our group, not really. Sean's one of those fringe guys of mutual acquaintance who tries way too hard to be involved. He's loud, self-centered, and crosses social lines like they're not even there. The kind of guy who invites himself everywhere and assumes it's cool. Apparently Sean had mentioned to Nolan weeks ago that he was also going to Floatopia. We hadn't planned anything with him. In fact, his name didn't even come up during our car ride. So, naturally, we were stunned when we saw him standing outside the liquor store that night while we were picking up drinks. He didn't say hi. He just kind of joined our group and started walking back with us, like he belonged. A few blocks from the store, he finally asked, "Why do you guys look surprised?" Like we hadn't just run into him by chance. No one responded. It was awkward, but we just kept moving. Things got weirder when we got to Talia's place. Sean asked to use the bathroom and then bolted ahead. Talia answered the door, and before she could say anything, Sean barged in and said, "I'm staying here this weekend." She, understandably confused, just assumed he was part of our group and let him in. When Nolan found out, he was furious. He pulled Sean aside and told him to leave. Told him straight up that lying to his cousin was not okay. Sean didn't take it well. He stood outside for like 20 minutes, pleading to be let back in. Eventually, Nolan slammed the door in his face. We moved on, drank way too much, and laughed about Sean's audacity. But later, we realized something chilling. Nolan had been sharing his iPhone location with Sean for months back and never turned it off. The next day, Floatopia was everything we expected. Crowded beaches, chaotic energy, tons of sunburns. By the late afternoon, we were back at Talia's place, joined by more friends who had shown up from nearby schools. We recounted the whole Sean ordeal, and one of the guys, Max, checked his phone and said, "Wait, I still have Sean's location from a group project we did." We all crowded around Max's phone. The location dot practically on top of us. The moment we pointed it out, it started moving fast, like someone had been watching and suddenly drove off. It was creepy, but no one took it seriously. We chalked it up to Sean being obsessive and desperate. We joked about it and continued partying. That night, we crashed hard. I woke up sometime after 2 a.m. to what sounded like a loud pop. It took me a second to register. Glass. I scrambled off the floor and realized no one else had stirred. Then I spotted it, the sliding balcony door was shattered. A rock was in the middle of the room. I panicked, grabbed a wine bottle from the floor, and crept toward the living room. I thought maybe I'd call the cops after waking someone up. But then I noticed the closet door handle move. Someone was inside. I froze. My mind went blank with fear. I was about to open the door myself when I hesitated. Something in my gut told me not to. I backed away and woke Nolan. He groggily followed me to the living room. But by the time we got there, the closet door was wide open and empty, or so we thought. Nolan stepped forward, bent down, and picked something up. A knife. A long one. Like disturbingly long. We realized Sean must have broken in and hidden in the closet, armed. If I had opened that door alone, who knows what would have happened. We woke everyone else up, did a full sweep, and called the police. The officers took our statements but said we weren't the only ones targeted that night. Property damage is common during Floatopia, and no one could confirm Sean had been there. Max checked his phone again. Sean had removed him from location sharing. All of us were blocked. It was like he had vanished. Ghosted us in real life. We left the next morning shaken. Nolan wrote a long message to Sean ever delivered. Weeks passed and none of us heard from him. Not even mutual friends knew what happened. Sean was just gone. I'm still nervous as hell thinking about it. He knows where most of us live. If he could do that in Isla Vista, what's to stop him from showing up again? If anything happens, I'll let you know. But for now, all I can do is stay alert. I was 21 when this happened early spring, junior year of college. My roommate Alex and I had this impulsive idea to drive out to Joshua Tree for the weekend. We'd been swamped with midterms and projects, and I think we just needed something weird and spontaneous to break the cycle. The plan was simple. We'd leave Friday afternoon, drive through the night, camp somewhere near the national park, then head back Sunday. The drive was long but manageable, mostly open highway, dotted with forgotten gas stations and sketchy rest stops. That part of California is beautiful in a very unsettling way. It's wide and quiet and empty. As night fell, we turned off the main route to take a less crowded, scenic road that cut through the desert. It saved time, supposedly. We were an hour into the detour when our phone signals died. No bars, no service. We hadn't seen another car in almost 20 minutes, which seemed odd for a Friday night. The road was smooth at first, but got narrower and bumpier the deeper we went. That's when we saw a ton of those hand-painted wooden signs nailed to a post. Dessert View Inn, 5 miles. Below it, in black marker, Gas Gia1 snacks. Alex and I looked at each other. We weren't exactly low on gas, but we could use snacks and maybe a bathroom. Plus, we figured it was better to have a rough location in mind now that our GPS was dead. So we followed the sign. The road got rougher, more cracked, like it hadn't been maintained in years. Still, the signs kept appearing every mile or so. Dessert View Inn, 4 miles, then 3, and so on. By the time we saw the final one, it was almost midnight, and finally, we spotted it. The inn looked like an old roadside motel from the 50s, flat roof, chipped paint, that burnt orange desert glow. There were no lights on, but a beat-up vending machine flickered weakly outside the office. We pulled into the gravel lot and parked. There were no other cars. The silence hit me. Not just quiet, dead quiet. No wind, no bugs, no sound at all. I stepped out of the car and felt it instantly, the kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. I think Alex felt it too because he said, "Let's just get snacks and go." We walked up to the vending machine. It was empty, totally empty. The machine was on, humming, but all the slots were bare. That's when we noticed the door to the office slightly ajar. I don't know why we went in. The inside was dusty, a single desk, a faded register book, no lights, no one at the counter. On the wall behind the desk were actual keys, like from an old movie, each on a hook labeled 1 through 12. Every hook was full except one, room 6. Alex said something like, "This is sketchy as hell," but I was too busy staring at the wall behind the counter. It had Polaroids pinned each one showing a guest standing outside room 6. Same angle, same lighting. There were maybe 20 photos, and in every one, the person was standing alone. But what got me was the captions. Each had a date, and the last few years were missing. The most recent photo was from 2013. I was about to say something when I heard a sound from outside. Not just a sound movement. Gravel crunching under slow footsteps. We ducked behind the desk and peeked out the office window. At the far end of the motel, right near room 6, was a man, tall, thin, dressed in all black, no flashlight, no phone. Just standing outside room 6, perfectly still, facing the door. Then he slowly turned, like he was listening for something. He looked directly toward the office. I don't know how he saw you as it was dark, and we weren't making noise, but he started walking our way. We didn't wait. Alex and I bolted out the side door, sprinted for the car, and floored it out of the lot. Gravel kicked up behind us. As we pulled back onto the main road, I looked in the mirror. The man was standing exactly where we'd parked, just watching us go. We didn't stop driving until we hit the highway 2 hours later. Still no cell service. but at least we saw other cars again. When we finally reached the national park, we didn't even bother camping. We pulled into a 24-hour diner and sat there until sunrise. Back at school, we tried Googling Desert View Inn. Nothing came up. The next weekend, we drove back to the area at this time during the day with a full tank and better prep. We followed the same detour road, same route, same distance. There was no inn, just empty desert. About 4 years ago, I was on a solo road trip through the Midwest. I just left Minneapolis and was driving down toward Kansas City, planning to visit my aunt for the weekend. The entire trip was a spontaneous break from a bad job, and a worse breakup just me, my old Toyota Camry, and whatever podcast or static-filled radio stations I could find along the way. It was a weekday, maybe Tuesday. The roads were empty, just long stretches of cracked pavement and cornfields on both sides. It wasn't even noon yet when my car started acting up-subtle at first, like sluggish acceleration, then jerking forward, and a warning light I didn't recognize. I pulled off at the next exit, which led to what looked like the edge of a ghost town. There was no cell service. My phone had one bar and couldn't load anything. So I did what anyone might do. I kept driving, hoping I'd spot a gas station or a mechanic before the car died completely. That's when I saw him. About a quarter mile down a gravel road, there was a small wooden garage with an old faded sign that read Earl's Repairs. The kind of place you'd drive past without a second thought. But the bay door was open, and I saw someone crouched over a tool bench inside. I pulled in. The guy who stepped out looked like he belonged there. Older, maybe late 50s, tall and wiry. His coveralls were sun-faded and stained with grease, and he had a slight limp in his left leg. "Car trouble?" he asked. His voice was calm, country slow. I nodded and explained what happened. He motioned for me to pop the hood and said he'd take a look. The place was eerily quiet. No other customers, no noise from the road. Just the sound of wind rustling the nearby wheat and the occasional clank of his tools. I remember thinking the guy seemed competent enough, quick with diagnostics, clear with explanations. He told me the fuel pump might be going bad, but he'd check the wiring first, see if it was something simple. While he worked, I walked around a bit and noticed how weirdly untouched the place looked. Dust on every window. A vending machine inside with snacks from at least 5 years ago. An old rotary phone mounted on the wall. It felt more like a museum than a working shop. After about 20 minutes, he told me he'd narrow the issue down to a clogged fuel filter. Easy fix, he said. Wouldn't even take an hour. I asked if there was anywhere nearby I could grab food or at least some coffee. He laughed and said, "Not unless you like warm root beer and off-brand chips." Then he motioned to a mini fridge in the corner of the garage and said I could help myself. The fridge was almost empty. Just a couple cans of soda and one bottle of water. I took the water, thanked him, and sat on a faded couch against the wall. This is where things started feeling off. He was working on the car, but every few minutes he'd glance over at me. Not quick glances either, long stares, like he was studying me. Once he caught me looking back and smiled. Not a creepy smile, more like a tired one. But it lingered too long. Still, I didn't want to be rude. I just sat quietly, sipping my water, trying not to make it weird. Around the 40-minute mark, he said, "Almost done. Want to come see?" I followed him out to the car, where he pointed at something near the engine and started explaining what he did. His tone was casual, but then he asked, "You traveling alone?" I lied and said my brother was on his way to meet me. His smile disappeared. "That right?" he said. I nodded, trying to play it cool. He didn't say anything else for a second, just stood there. Then, just like that, he changed the subject. Told me to start the car. It turned over perfectly. Relieved, I thanked him and asked how much I owed. He waved it off and said, "First time's on the house. You just remember old Earl next time you need help." I didn't argue. I got in the car, and as I pulled out of the lot, I saw him standing at the edge of the gravel, watching me drive away. I thought that was the end of it. But an hour later, I spotted the same pickup truck from his lot in my rearview mirror. Not close, just trailing me at a distance. I told myself it wasn't him. That a truck like that probably existed in every small town. But then it turned when I turned, slowed down when I did, matched my every lane change for nearly 15 miles. Eventually, I turned off onto a side road, trying to throw him off. The truck followed. I took another turn, still there. That's when the fear hit. I drove faster, I don't even know what direction I was heading anymore. Just away. At one point, I hit a stretch of straight road and floored it, pushing the old Camry way past what it was comfortable doing. When I finally reached a town, an actual town, with traffic and people, I pulled into the parking lot of a grocery store and parked between two SUVs. I waited, watching the entrance. No truck. After 10 minutes, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe I was being paranoid. I went inside the store, grabbed a snack and a bottle of water, and when I came back out, there it was, parked across the street. Same truck, same rusted rear fender, same cracked passenger mirror, but no one inside. I got in my car and drove straight to the police station. I didn't even know what to report, just told them I thought someone had followed me from a shop up north and was parked outside. An officer stepped outside with me to check. The truck was gone. That night I couldn't sleep. I checked my hotel room locks 5 times, pushed furniture against the door. I kept replaying everything, his questions, his stares, the sudden change in mood. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't lied about my brother. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. All I know is I never saw that man or that truck again. But every so often when I'm on long drives alone, I think about Earl's garage. I think about how empty that place was, how old it looked, and I wonder if anyone else ever stopped there, or if it even really existed. There's something about long drives that makes you feel untouchable, like the road will always lead somewhere safe, and the worst thing that could happen is a flat tire or running out of gas. But the truth is, when you're out there in unfamiliar places, surrounded by strangers and silence, reality changes. You're not in control. Not really. Whether it's an obsessive acquaintance who can't take a hint, a mysterious figure waiting outside an abandoned motel room, or a seemingly kind stranger who watches a little too closely. The danger doesn't always look like danger until it's too late. Sometimes, the scariest part of the journey isn't getting lost. It's who's out there waiting for you,